What if, just imagine, there was this ancient, really intricate map to your life? Not just predicting events, but mapping the actual rhythms of your soul, like a cosmic blueprint, speaking in these subtle signs and, well, precise timings. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into the world of Vedic astrology, also known as Jyotish Shastra. And this isn't your simple newspaper horoscope, is it? It's described as a kind of living language.
Exactly. A language for self-understanding, for spiritual growth, and for getting in sync with life's, deeper currents, maybe even karma.
So our mission today is to unpack some of its core predictive ideas. We're focusing specifically on confluence, context, and cumulative influence. And then we'll see it all play out.
Right, but before we dive into the grammar, we need the alphabet, the basics.
That makes sense. Let's start there.
Okay. So first up is your birth chart, the Kundali. Think of it as a picture, a snapshot of the sky, right at the moment and place you were born. It's unique to you.
Your personal sky map. Got it.
Then you have the planets, the Grahas. These are the main players, the actors in your cosmic drama. Each one represents something vital, like the sun is your core self, your soul. The moon, well, that's your emotions, your inner world. Mars is your drive, Jupiter, your wisdom, and so on.
And these planets, they aren't just floating around aimlessly. There's a structure.
Definitely. They're performing on a stage, which in Jyotish is made up of 12 houses, or bhavas. Each house is a specific area of your life. Your personality, your health, career, relationships, spirituality, it's all mapped out in these houses.
Okay, so planets are actors, houses are stages. What about the setting?
That's where the zodiac signs, the rashis, come in. There are 12 signs, and they act like the background, the mood, the flavor that colors how each planet expresses itself. So take Mars again, the planet of action. In fiery Aries, it might be super bold, really assertive.
Right.
But put that same Mars in watery, sensitive Pisces, and it expresses itself very differently, maybe more intuitively, perhaps a bit dreamily less direct.
So understanding those four chart planets, houses, signs, that's the foundation before we get into how they actually work together.
Precisely. You need the pieces before you can see the whole puzzle.
All right, foundations covered. Let's get into how Jyotish uses these pieces, the core principles. You mentioned confluence and conflict first, where the stars align or maybe clash.
Yes, confluence is absolutely key. It's really the cornerstone of making solid predictions in Jyotish. It's when you see multiple factors, different planets, house placements, those combinations called yogas, even the timing systems all pointing in the same direction.
Like all signs point to yes.
Pretty much. It creates a strong indication. It's like several witnesses telling the same story. You start to believe it, right? For example, with timing. If your major planetary period, the dasha suggests something, maybe marriage, and the sub-period, the bhukti, also supports it.
Right.
And then maybe you also find a specific yoga, like a Raja Yoga for success, showing up not just from your main rising sign, but also confirmed from your moon sign. That's powerful confluence. The likelihood goes way up.
I read about this fascinating case, Hartefou's guru predicting two mothers for someone. That sounds incredibly specific. How could confluence explain that?
Oh, that's a brilliant example. Really shows the layers. His guru saw the moon, which is the universal indicator for mother, was in the 4th house.
Which also relates to the mother, right?
Exactly. So indicator in the mother house. Then that moon was in Pisces, which is considered a dual sign, suggesting duality. And the final layer, it was in a specific lunar mansion, a nakshatra called Ravati. And Ravati can sometimes indicate foster parents or, not being raised solely by the biological mother.
Wow. So moon in the mother house, in a dual sign, in a nakshatra linked to foster care.
Bingo. That's confluence. Multiple independent indicators all converging on the same unusual theme, 2 maternal figures.
That's incredible. So confluence makes things clearer. But what if the signs are mixed? What if things point in different directions?
That's what we call conflict. It happens all the time. Maybe the dasha lord, the major period ruler, favors a job change, but the bhukti lord, the sub-period ruler, indicates obstacles or staying put.
So life gets complicated.
Exactly. You get mixed results, maybe delays, maybe the change happens but with difficulties. It reflects the nuances of real life, doesn't it? Things are rarely straightforward.
True. And you also mentioned amplification.
Right. That's when transits the planets moving right now align with something already strong and positive in your birth chart. Say, Jupiter, the great benefic, transits over a well-placed planet in your chart. It can amplify the good effects promised there.
Kind of like adding fuel to a positive fire.
A good way to put it. And for a really deep, integrated view, astrologers often check for confluence across multiple reference points, the main ascendant, the moon sign ascendant, the sun sign ascendant. If something shows up strongly from all three, it's likely a major life theme.
Okay, so it's rarely just one isolated thing. Which brings us neatly to the next idea, cumulative and blending effects. Life's rich tapestry, as you put it.
Yes, this is crucial. No single planet or placement works totally on its own. Life is layered, complex.
Like ingredients in a recipe.
Exactly like that. Think of a chef. Each planet adds its own distinct flavor or energy, and they don't just cancel each other out if they're different, they blend. The planet brings its natural meaning, but that blends with the meaning of the house it's in, the sign it's in, and any aspects it receives from other planets. It all mixes together.
Can you give an example of that blending in action?
Sure. Let's take Mars again. Courage, drive, energy. If Mars is in an Aries ascendant, the first house, it brings loads of personal power, assertiveness. That's natural because Mars rules Aries and the first house is self.
Makes sense. Very direct energy.
Right. But what if that same Mars also happens to rule, let's say, the 8th house, which relates to things like chronic issues, accidents, sudden events? Well, the themes blend. So for that person, you have the drive and courage, but also a potential vulnerability, maybe a proneness to accidents or injuries, because the 8th house signification gets mixed in with the first house energy.
So you could be incredibly successful and driven, but also face physical challenges. The good doesn't cancel the bad.
Precisely. Strengths and struggles coexist. That's the blending effect. It creates a much more realistic, layered picture of a person's life.
Okay, that nuance is really important. And the mood or the flavor you mentioned, the zodiac signs, the rashis, they really influence this blending, don't they? That's the next principle, the zodiac's whisper.
Absolutely central. The Rashi, the sign a planet is in, dramatically affects its strength and how it expresses itself. Planets have different states of dignity or strength. If a planet is in its own sign, Swarashi, it's comfortable, strong, usually favorable. Think of being in your own home.
Right.
If it's an exaltation, Ucha, it's at its peak strength. Super powerful, intense expression. But remember, an exalted malefic planet like Saturn or Mars can still cause problems, just maybe in a very powerful or high-level way.
Okay, so stronger isn't always nicer?
Not necessarily. Then there's debilitation, Nietzsche. That's the weakest state. The planet struggles to express its positive qualities, and its negative side might be more prominent.
And there are others too. Mula Trikona, friendly signs.
Yes, Mula Trikona is a position of special strength, often considered even more potent than its own sign in some ways, very focused. And planets are stronger in friendly signs and weaker in enemy signs. It all modifies their power.
This really layers things up. I remember reading about Mercury, planet of communication, logic if it placed in Pisces. Pisces is considered a mute sign in some Jyotish texts.
That's a classic example, yes. Pisces is watery, intuitive, boundless. Mercury likes logic, structure, clear communication. So Mercury in Pisces can sometimes manifest as speech difficulties or maybe confusion, a very dreamy thinking style, not very practical sometimes.
Wow, the sign totally changes how Mercury works.
It profoundly shapes its function. And these planets are not just sitting there being strong or weak in their signs, they're constantly interacting. Which leads us to planetary interactions, the cosmic conversation.
Right, planets influencing each other.
Exactly. First, you have their basic nature. Natural benefics Jupiter, Venus, a well-placed moon. Sometimes Mercury generally promote good things, growth, ease.
The good guys.
Sort of, yeah. And then the natural malefic Saturn brings restriction, delay. Mars brings conflict, energy. Rahu and Ketu are shadow points bringing obsession or detachment. The sun can be harsh. A waning moon is weaker. They tend to bring challenges.
But it's not just good versus bad, is it?
No, not at all. Their roles are complex, and beyond their nature, they have relationships. Planets are considered friends, enemies, or neutral to each other. Being aspected or joined by a friend strengthens a planet. An enemy weakens it.
Okay, and aspects. That's like planets looking at each other.
Kind of. Aspects, or drishti, are specific lines of sight. All planets aspect the 7th house directly opposite them, but some have special aspects. Mars also aspects the 4th and 8th houses from itself. Jupiter, the great benefic, aspects the 5th and 9th. Saturn, the taskmaster, aspects the 3rd and 10th. These aspects carry the planet's influence to those other areas of life.
So they spread their energy around the chart.
They do. And finally, association. When planets are together in the same sign or house, their energies blend very directly, like roommates influencing each other strongly.
Phew. Okay. So many interactions. And one last core principle before we look at an example. House lordship. Each house has a ruler.
Yes, absolutely vital. Each of those 12 houses we talked about is ruled by the planet that governs the zodiac sign falling in that house. We call this planet the Lord or the dispositor of the house.
And some lords are more important than others.
Well, the ascendant lord, the planet ruling your first house, your rising sign, is extremely important. It tells a lot about your core personality, your physical self, your overall life direction. Its condition is key.
And the strength of this lord, this dispositor, is critical.
Hugely critical. This is a subtle but powerful point. The strength and placement of the house lord can actually override or significantly modify the effect of planets sitting inside that house.
So you could have a good planet in a house, but if the house's ruler is weak or badly placed,
the results from that house might be weak or problematic, despite the good planet sitting there. The landlord's condition affects the whole property, you know? An exalted planet might give surprisingly poor results if its dispositor is debilitated. Context is everything.
got it. The ruler matters immensely. And you mentioned briefly that houses fall into categories.
We do categorize them, yeah. The trinal houses, the 1st, 5th, and 9th, are called Konas. They're generally seen as the most auspicious, linked to fortune, wisdom, creativity, past life merit. Very beneficial.
Like pillars of good fortune.
Something like that. Then the angular houses, 1st, 4th, 7th, 10th, the Kendras. These are pillars of your life structure, yourself, home, relationships, career. Very powerful, visible areas.
Okay, and the challenging ones.
Those are the tricky houses, the 6th, 8th, and 12th. They relate to obstacles, illness, debts, 6th, hidden matters, chronic issues, longevity, 8th, and loss, expenses, isolation, spirituality, 12th. Generally difficult areas.
Unless there was an exception.
Ah, yes, unless their lords form what's called a Viparita Raja Yoga. This is a fascinating one where the lords of these difficult houses are connected in specific ways, and paradoxically, it can lead to a sudden rise after adversity, like turning a negative into a positive.
Wow, okay. So confluence, blending, sign strengths, interactions, and house lordship. That's a lot to juggle.
It is. It's an incredibly intricate system, but seeing it in practice makes it clearer.
Perfect timing. Let's bring these principles to life. Let's look at the birth chart of someone iconic, Muhammad Ali. His life seems like a perfect canvas for this immense fame, power, controversy struggle.
Ali's chart is truly a fantastic example. It demonstrates these principles so clearly. You see the confluence, the blending, the yogas playing out dramatically.
Okay, so where do we start with Ali? Maybe the yogas, those special combinations.
Good place to start. One of the most striking things for Ali, who had a Cancer ascendant, is Mars. Mars rules his 5th house of performance and creativity and his 10th house of career and public status. This makes Mars a superpowered planet for him, a Raja Yoga Karaka.
Bringing success and status.
Exactly. And where was his Mars? In Scorpio, its own sign, placed in the powerful 10th house and with directional strength. This forms a classic, powerful Ruchak Yoga.
And Ruchak Yoga indicates bravery, forcefulness, victory, leadership in something like sports.
Precisely. It describes Ali's boxing career almost perfectly. But here's the confluence kicker. This powerful Ruchak Yoga didn't just form from his main ascendant. It repeated from his moon sign and his sun sign, too.
So it was reinforced multiple times.
Massively amplified. It was like the universe shouting, this man will be a powerful, victorious leader in a competitive field.
Incredible. What else stood out? I remember you mentioned his debilitated Saturn earlier, but also a fix for it.
Right. He had Saturn debilitated in Aries, which normally suggests weakness, struggle, perhaps issues with authority or structure. But the planet ruling Aries, Mars, was incredibly strong in its own sign, in the 10th house, forming that Ruchak Yoga we just discussed.
The Mars rescued Saturn.
Effectively, yes. This creates what's called Nicha Bhanga Raja Yoga. Nicha is debilitation, Bhanga is cancellation. So the debilitation is canceled, and it turns into a Raja Yoga, a combination for power and status. It often signifies rising high after overcoming significant obstacles or coming from humble beginnings. Again, perfectly describes Ali's journey, and this also repeated across his multiple ascendants.
So the challenges actually became sources of strength. But he did face serious health issues later, Parkinson's. Was that visible?
Tragically, yes. There was a specific combination for health difficulties and Arishta Yoga. In his chart, it involved a conjunction of the Lord of the 12th house, loss, confinement, and the Lord of the 1st house, self, body, Mercury, and the moon. This specific pattern was identified as a key astrological reason pointing towards the potential for Parkinson's disease.
And that repeated across the ascendants, too.
Yes, that confluence across the ascendant, moon, and sun points strongly suggested a significant, life-affecting health condition related to the nervous system or body-mind connection.
So sad, but astrologically consistent. What about his shift later in life, moving from boxing to activism and philanthropy?
Another fascinating combination. He had a powerful Pravraja yoga, sometimes called a sannyasa yoga or renunciation yoga. It typically forms when 4 or more strong planets gather in an angular house, Kendra. In his case, they were clustered in his 7th and 10th houses.
And that suggests?
It often indicates a significant shift away from worldly pursuits towards more spiritual, philosophical, or humanitarian goals, a kind of renunciation of a previous path. It pointed directly towards his departure from the martial field of boxing, towards his later work as a global ambassador for peace and humanitarian causes.
It mapped out his whole life arc, almost.
To a remarkable degree. And even his famous trash talk, his wit, his poetic flair that connects to another yoga, the Buddha Aditya yoga. It's formed by the sun and Mercury being together, especially when aspecting the ascendant as they did for him. It signifies sharp intellect, eloquence, and powerful communication.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, that makes sense.
It all fits together, doesn't it? The specific placements in the houses, the yogas, the planetary strengths, they all combined, they blended to create this incredibly complex, powerful, and challenged individual.
His physical skill from Mars, his public image, the intellect from Mercury, Sun, the health challenges, the spiritual shift.
Yeah.
It's all there in the interactions.
Exactly. Ollie's chart is a living testament to how these principles aren't just abstract theories. They paint a detailed, nuanced portrait of a life's potential and its unfolding reality.
It really shows how Jyotish aims to capture complexity, not just give simple good or bad answers.
That's a key takeaway. It goes beyond simple predictions.
Yeah.
You have to remember that perfect, unadulterated confluence pointing only one way is actually pretty rare in a chart.
Just like life itself, right?
Exactly. Contradictory indicators are common. That's what creates the richness, the texture, the challenges, the choices in life. It's rarely all smooth sailing or all disaster.
And thinking about all these challenges, like that canceled debilitated Saturn, you mentioned this idea of elevated challenges.
Yes. When a malefic planet like Saturn is involved in something like Anicca Bhanga Raja Yoga, it doesn't mean the problems vanish entirely. Instead, the nature of the challenges gets elevated. They become more structured, perhaps higher stakes. You might face exalted problems, big obstacles, but you also gain the strength and status to potentially overcome them, often in a very public way. Contrast that with a deeply afflicted, unmitigated malefic Hanover reasons. The problems might be more chaotic, low quality, harder to get a handle on.
So the quality of the struggle itself is shown. Fascinating. And of course, none of this happens all at once. Timing is everything.
Absolutely crucial. The birth chart is the blueprint, the map of potential. But it's the timing systems in Jyotish that show when different potentials get activated. The main ones are the dasha system, long major periods ruled by specific planets, and the bhukti system, sub-periods within the dashas. And then you overlay Grachara, the ongoing transits of the planets in the sky right now. It's the interplay of these that indicates when the promises and challenges stored in your natal chart are likely to manifest.
So the chart shows what might happen. The timing shows when.
In essence, yes. It brings the static map to life.
So pulling this all together, what's the real value for someone listening? How does understanding all these layers, confluence, blending, timing, actually help you?
I think the biggest value is providing a unique lens for self-understanding. Jyotish offers this incredibly detailed, personalized map.
It's your personal map.
It really is. And it's not about seeing a fixed, rigid fate you can't escape.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding the currents you're navigating, the innate strengths you possess, the challenges hardwired into your journey, the karmic patterns you might be working through.
So more awareness, better navigation.
Exactly. With that awareness, you can work with the energies, make more conscious choices, understand why certain things keep happening, and maybe approach challenges with more wisdom or resilience. It's a guide to your potential and your path.
Okay, so today we've journeyed through these core principles of Vedic astrology, from the basics of planets and houses, through confluence, blending, yogas, and timing. And we saw it all come alive looking at the incredible complex chart of Muhammad Ali.
A powerful illustration, for sure.
And understanding these cosmic patterns, these timings, it really can offer you, the listener, a different perspective on your own life's ups and downs, can't it? It helps reveal maybe the deeper currents shaping your path.
It encourages looking beyond just the surface events to the underlying energies and patterns.
Right, seeing the bigger picture. So here's a thought to leave you with as we wrap up this deep dive. If the stars truly can lay out such a detailed, intricate blueprint, what hidden patterns, what unique potentials might be guiding your journey right now? Waiting not to dictate your fate, but perhaps to be understood, to be navigated with more awareness as you live out your own unique karma and embrace your fullest potential.
Something definitely worth pondering.
Indeed. Until our next deep dive.